When you hear AI governance, your mind probably jumps to complex policies, frameworks, and all that tech stuff. But here's the thing. What if the most crucial first step has nothing to do with writing rules and everything to do with picking the right players? Let's dive in, because getting AI governance right isn't a tech problem. It's a team sport through and through.
And just so you know exactly where our game plan is coming from, this entire explainer is pulled straight from Chapter 2 of the tutorial on developing an AI governance program by Virtualization Options LLC. We're going right to the source to figure out how to build a winning roster.
All right, so here's how we're going to tackle this. First, we'll talk about why this is a cross-functional sport. Then we'll meet the team captains, the execs. After that, we'll get to know the central board that actually sets the rules of the game, and then the players on the field who make it all happen. And finally, we'll get into the playbook for assembling your own dream team.
Okay, first things first. Why can't we just toss this whole thing over to the IT department and call it a day? Well, because AI isn't just code that lives on a server somewhere. It touches literally every corner of the business. You're talking legal, HR, marketing, product, risk, everything. If you don't get input from all these different areas, you are setting yourself up for some massive, and I mean massive, blind spots.
And this quote right here, it just hits the nail on the head. It perfectly captures the core challenge. Think about it. Your legal team is trained to be cautious, to move slowly and mitigate every possible risk. Your tech teams, they're built to move fast, to innovate, to break things. A solid governance structure isn't about slowing one down for the other. It's about building a bridge so they can speak the same language.
So that leads us to the million-dollar question, right? If we need to get all these different perspectives, all these different languages, into the same room, who actually gets an invitation? Who are the absolute must-have players to make this whole thing work?
It absolutely has to start at the top. You've got to begin with the captains of the ship, your executive leadership. Let me be blunt. Without their buy-in, without their sponsorship and clear strategic direction, any governance program you try to build is basically dead in the water before it even starts. They provide the money, sure, but way more importantly, they provide the authority that tells the entire organization, hey, this is a real priority. And this table really shows how that leadership gets distributed. You've got the CEO who has ultimate accountability, the CIO who's thinking about the tech and the implementation, the chief risk officer is making sure AI risk fits into the bigger picture, your CDO is all about the data, the general counsel is navigating the legal minefield, and you can't forget the CHRO who's dealing with how this impacts your people. The main takeaway here is that accountability is shared. If any one of these leaders is missing from the conversation, you've just created a huge vulnerability.
So once you have that executive sponsorship locked in, the next piece of the puzzle is creating what is essentially the central nervous system for your whole program. This is the AI Governance Board, the committee that's responsible for setting the rules of the game and, making the really tough calls.
Now let's be super clear about what this board is. This isn't some informal weekly chat. It is a formal body. It's cross-functional, meaning you have senior people from tech, risk, legal, and the actual business unit sitting at the same table. And its purpose is crystal clear. It is the single central authority for all AI governance decisions and oversight. Full stop.
And believe me, their to-do list is huge. They're approving the core policies, they're giving the green light or the red light to high-risk AI projects, and they're keeping an eye on compliance. But here's the real insight. Their biggest challenge isn't just making these decisions. It's making them fast enough to keep up with the business, finding that perfect balance between being thorough and being agile. They're the final word, and they report directly back to the C-suite.
Okay, so we've got our captains and we've got our rulemaking committee, but who are the actual players on the field, the ones executing the plays every single day? That's where your operational and technical roles come into the picture. These are the folks who turn all that high-level policy into practice. On the operational side, you have these key coordinators. The AI Governance Program Manager is kind of like the quarterback, the main point of contact, keeping all the moving parts in sync. And their number one skill? It's influence without authority. They have to be master coordinators. Then you've got your specialists in ethics, compliance, and security, who are the guardians, making sure everything aligns with your values and is safe from threats. And then you have the technical teams, the people on the front lines. Your data scientists and machine learning engineers are responsible for baking governance right into the models themselves. We're talking about things like testing for bias and making sure the AI is explainable. And the AI product managers? They are the crucial bridge, making sure governance is part of the conversation from the very first design sketch.
This, right here, is where governance stops being a boring checklist and actually becomes part of the code.
So we know all the positions we need to fill on the team, but how do you actually go about recruiting for them? What's the playbook for putting together this all-star roster?
You've basically got two main paths you can go down. On one hand, you can build your team from the inside. The huge advantage there is they have deep knowledge of your organization, and you're building a capability that stays with you for the long haul. The downside, it takes time, and you might not have all the specialized expertise you need from day one. On the other hand, you can hire external consultants. You get instant expertise and proven frameworks, but that comes with a hefty price tag and the risk of becoming too dependent on them.
Now, according to the source material, the winning strategy for most organizations is actually a hybrid approach. And it makes perfect sense, right? It gives you the absolute best of both worlds. You maintain ownership internally and you grow your own team's skills over time, but you also strategically bring in outside experts for very specific targeted needs, like, say, help navigating a brand new regulation or implementing a really complex new tool. So let's say you've done it. You've drafted the executives, you've formed the board, and you've hired the specialists. Your team is finally on the field. But here's the thing. Having the right players is only half the battle. The real question is this: is their playbook, the policies, the risk frameworks, the controls, actually ready for the game?